It's been a while since I've done a how-to video, but in this one I want to show you how to use the Fib channel. It is the icon that looks like this, and you find it on the left-hand side, third from the top. You click this little arrow, the Gannon Fibonacci tools, and it is right there. I just put a star so it would sit in my hotbar. Okay, it does not look like this when you first use it. Okay, everything, all these numbers that are added in here are specific to what I've determined to be proper Fibonacci numbers that naturally occur. Okay, and this is what I want the most. I don't just want arbitrary numbers that mean nothing. I want numbers that signify something in nature or something repetitive. Okay, so what I'm going to show you to do is I'll pop on the NASDAQ actually right here, and I'll show you how to utilize it. Now, I've done a bunch of drawings up before, and that's fine. That's for another lesson plan. Actually, no, I'm going to leave this alone because it is for another lesson plan. So we'll just pop on Tesla. Okay, we'll have some fun with this. Okay, the way you draw a Fibonacci channel is either you go from the highest peak to the second highest peak in the range that you want, and then you extend it down to the lowest possible point in between those two peaks. And there's your channel. And that's how you form it. Okay? So what this does is two things, right? It does a Fibonacci type of tool, right? As you can clearly see. But not only that, it also does these parallel channels that we would otherwise use here, right? So parallel channel, let's say we grab it from there to there, and then we extend it down, right? It's pretty much like a parallel channel, but with fibs. It's fantastic, right? Because what you get to see, what you get to witness, is very strong retracement points that are based strongly on previous points of resistance and control, right? So as you can clearly see, right, in between here, like this area, this is where we drew it up. So this area doesn't matter anymore, right? What matters is what comes after. Okay, so let's see what came after. Look, when the Tesla tested right here, look how it just touched that tip of that line and then started going down. Look what happened here. As low as it went off this purple line, and when it started going up. When it came back, it was very close to this yellow line, and then it pulled up, right? Look every single time where it stops or starts consolidating, right? It stopped right here. So it was kind of bouncing off this support right here on this yellow line, the 50%, okay? And then the next day it opened, but it was bouncing off this white line for a little while. That's where it was hovering until it finally touched here. And then it came back down to that white line. As you can see, the tips of the wicks, right? Right between those two parallel lines. And then when it opened finally the next day, you could see this was its testing grounds, right? This is kind of where it held before. This is where earnings were reported. That's why it kind of spiked up so weird. But at the same time, you kind of see how it spiked up, but it didn't come all the way up here. It kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Respected this white line, this 236, right, 23.6%. And as soon as it did, it dropped down, and look at this, it came right to there. This is where it opened the following day, or 2 days later, right? This is on the 4-hour chart. It opened here, it went up, came close to this white line, rejected off there, and went down. While this one tanked, look at where it stopped, right there. Okay, the next day we had a huge drop, and it came very close to this area. It didn't quite hit it, but it came very close, right? And then it rejected, and now we're sitting right at this line again. Okay, so what the Fibonacci tool kind of does for you, it gives you pivot points, right? I have no better way of explaining it. It kind of gives you pivot points that are based on historical movements, right? And the historical movements that you want are primarily the big spikes, right? Where you draw your Fibonacci tool from that point. Like if I drew it somewhere in here where it was within, 2 days worth, and I want to see what happened in the day, it's not going to give me as much information as I draw it for several months, right? So this gives me a lot of information. Now, how do I do it the opposite way, you ask? Well, it's quite simple. So let's just pop over here, right, before we have any other spikes. And that's for an example when you see the stock or the Forex pair trending down. But what happens when they're trending up? Okay, so where we're looking at right now, here's the lowest point. Okay, I'll just grab my tool. Here's the lowest point. Here's the next lowest point, right? And the high in between those is right there. Now, what's going to happen is, if something like that happens, then clearly we need to fix our lowest points, right? So let's move it all the way to there, because that was our, one lowest and then following the other lowest, because it kind of broke through that structure, and we're going to keep that high, right? Same idea. This is as it's climbing, right? You can clearly see where it starts to consolidate and where it starts to break out and use support and resistance zones, right? So look at this, for example. In this entire area, that's where Tesla was hanging out. Excuse me. Dropped down. Crazy how it dropped down and almost touched that area, right? Same as it dropped right there, and then this is where it hovered for several days. Okay, then again, it came back down to the area. Looks like we retested it, but as we started pulling up, it became another resistance zone, and another, right? So you can clearly see how valid these lines actually are. Now, if I were to, let's say, find another zone to draw this from, might be a little bit easier if we draw it further back in the past. Right now, you're not going to get as clean data as you did when Tesla started to spike after earnings. But let's do our best with this, right? So let's say we'll go right here. This was even right here. This was the lowest point until we got to this one, right? The lower high. And the highest point in between them was this area right there. Let's see how it all played out. Right, so as you see, I went quite high for this to be able to register. But look at this purple line, how everything bounced off. Right, here unfortunately we started getting really, really high because it's, we're going from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and now we're reporting hundreds and hundreds of dollars difference. But even still, all these Fibonacci lines, look how valid they become. You see how how came that close? That came very close. All these points of rejection, over here, like it all validates itself as it's used appropriately. Okay, so like again, ideally, let's say when we're going around this area, this will be a better way to tell where Tesla was still a young stock. Okay, so let's see how this would be better utilized. Okay, we'll zoom that in. Excuse me. Okay, now look, Tesla was climbing. Okay, and this is kind of where it's nothing was really going on, right? $6 valuation, that would have been fun. But okay, now look at this, right? Two big spiked areas. Let's grab the Fib channel from here to here. Oh, we got to get all our zones in. Sorry about that. Okay, and we'll flip it to the daily time frame because that's looking really, really, really tiny. All right, so here we are. Okay, this is the span of several years, so it's still going to be very valid. You'll understand why. Okay, and the highest point in between them is that one. Now let's see how that registers in the future. Very interesting, isn't it? Look how it plays off here and here. Oops, and here. And in this area, right? It comes very close to that purple line. Look, again, right? Again. Uncanny how that easily just rejected off there, right? Look, again. Starts consolidating around that area. Again. Again. Right? So very, very valid when it comes to long-term projections of support and resistance lines. And these are daily candles, right? So this, we drew this up from when? Let's see. When was this drawn up? From 2013 to 2016, right? So 3 years worth of information. Now we're going into the future to 2019. And look, that's still valid. 3 years later. Very interesting, huh? So now as we climb up, right, so I'll shrink this down a little bit so we have greater information. But as you see, right, now we start spiking upwards, and it's going to be very difficult to utilize that Fib channel. However, during that move, look how valid this still is, right? It's consolidating around there. It goes up, kind of goes through, so that's used as a support and resistance. That one, where a bunch of candles kind of close off like these, right? Look, starts off, bounced off there and went higher, opened right here, closed right here on that day. Right? Look at these ones where they closed and opened, followed by the following few days, right? Candle closes, look at this. This opened here, closed up here, but it opened right on the line. This one opened right on the line, this green candle, right? This red candle opened just slightly above this red line and drop down just to the yellow, right? Like every single of these lines, like I'm not saying that it's going to be exact and it's going to be the perfect move, but on a daily candle, for example, when you have a move that's very easily discerned, like this, you know, where you have the candle and the wick, you know, kind of starting around the middle and it goes off, like you could see that doesn't really give you a whole lot of information. However, you know, when you get lucky enough to have a candle open and close like this one, it's within 2 spots, right? It's within the yellow line and the aqua line right here. And what it shows you is the entire movement of the day happened in between these 2 lines. The next day, right, larger movement, it happened between these 2 lines, like this line and this line. 4 lines were valid at that point, but 2 of them acted like support and resistance. Look at the following day, right? Off the purple and the red. Extremely valid. So this is a great way to tell what is going to be happening in the long term and the short term. It's just a great tool to be able to utilize. All right. Now, what's the secret, you ask? Because like I said, it's a fib that I set up myself. It's not how it comes standard. So let me show you one and only time. Okay, so let's just draw it up here like we had before. I'll right click into the settings. Okay, and I'm not going to explain what all the numbers are. This is just how I set it up, and the colors become very important. Okay, the yellow means that they are the most frequently occurring Fibonacci numbers in nature. Right, the aqua, I just used aqua color for 0, 1, 2, and 3, right? Just solid targets, like whole numbers. And then all the percentages, each color represents something different, right? So yellow is the most occurring, purple was the second most occurring, which was only just 1, right? Green was 3rd, and red was 4th, and black was 5th. And that's just how I did it, and I utilized them all the way up to 3.61. After that, it doesn't really matter. I just draw another fib, right? But you can use it if you're able to find out whatever the rest of the numbers are. Go nuts. Not to say that they're going to be as valid as you see right here. That's why I have them grayed out. But this is how I set it up. This is the information that I'm willing to share with you. And hope you like the video. Hope it's useful for you in the future. All right. So if you guys can do me a favor, give this video a like, share any comments that you may have or questions, and I'll be sure to address them. Subscribe to the channel for more updates. Thank you, everyone. Take care.